What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to episode 12 of season 1 in Batman News Weekly. I'm going to tell you right up the start, this seems like it's going to be a very comic book heavy show, but don't fret, we actually do have some Batman movie news of a confirmation of a new actor coming into the fray, and it is Commissioner Gordon. And yeah, Clay, how do you feel? We've already kind of known this for a while, but how do you feel about the Gordon?
It's weird because, Matt Reeves has been, sharing on Twitter every single time he confirms a character, he has a GIF. I believe he put a GIF out when Wright was, announced the first time. And this time he just said the word tweet and then did another GIF again of Wright. And then everybody's like, oh my God, it's confirmed. And I was like, I thought it was already confirmed a month ago. This is why I'm a little confused.
Did he put one out, though?
I think he did.
I don't think he did.
You know what? Let me check.
Okay, so I'll talk while you look. So yeah, so this was, we've actually talked about it on the podcast before. We talked about the rumor that Jeffrey Wright was being cast as Gordon, but now this is a confirmation from Matt Reeves himself, and he does this. He's done it with every character so far that has been cast in his movie. He did it with Riddler, did it with Catwoman, did it with Batman, and now we're getting Jeffrey Wright. And this is going, like I said, this does confirm that there is going to be a black Commissioner Gordon, and most likely that would lead to a black Batgirl. So you can't say that, Matt Reeves isn't trying to be diverse in his movie, although in my opinion it's not diverse when it's just black and white actors. But I'm kind of hoping, because there was a rumor a long time ago, that Oscar Isaac met with WB for a role in the Batman. I'm really hoping it's Two-Face. But we'll have to wait and see on that. Clay, did you get confirmation?
He actually did not. So that's my, I thought he actually did, but I guess it was a whole bunch of other people that were just like putting gifts out there and like getting hyped up because he has a pretty serious role in the show Westworld right now, I believe. Yeah. Which I don't even know if that's come back since it's like season 2.
There's like long gaps between that show.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, I've never seen him in anything. I've heard he's a phenomenal actor, and it just seems like Matt Reeves is trying to knock it out of the park with every casting in this movie. And so it looks like we're going to get, I don't want to say like Oscar-worthy movie. We're not going to get I don't think we're going to get a Joker, but I do think we're going to get a cinematic, serious movie in the Batman, with the Batman. And
I believe so, and I'm really excited to see something that isn't like, I feel like I'm going to put my foot in my mouth for saying, I want to see action. Don't get me wrong. Whenever there's a Batman film, I definitely want to see action. Yeah. But we've been hearing that this possibly being a detective noir story, something that we really haven't seen on screen, him using his detective skills in a very large, parameter or whatever. So that's what I'm excited for, Being a fan of those old school black and white detective cheesy stories, the Dick Tracy stuff, but
why has that never gotten a movie like in recent time? It's blown my mind.
Dick
I have
Tracy?
a Dick Tracy book, yeah. Why didn't they never remade that?
I don't know. They attempted to like revamp the comic last year. Yeah. I think back in 2018, and I think it only lasted like maybe 3 or 4 issues.
That sucks. He should have a show. That'd be cool. But yeah, no, I'm totally down with a detective story, and I do think Matt Reeves is trying to make something not Nolan-esque, because I think he is going to be very comic booky in his movie, but I think he is going to combine the look of a comic book with the seriousness of cinema, And I'm really excited for that. I will say that I saw somebody actually do a mock-up of a suit for Robert Pattinson, and they used the blue trunks, and I was just like, that doesn't look too bad.
And with the actual yellow emblem.
Yeah, and he didn't have his cowl on though.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, that isn't too bad, but it's because it had a really badass utility belt, and I was like, that utility belt makes things look so much better, and so I think you could pull off the trunks if you had a sweet utility belt. And so I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, we just got the confirmation from Matt Reeves, and it just seems like this cast is coming together. We still haven't got a confirmation yet on when it's actually going to start filming. People have said December, other people have said January, and I think this is filming in London, but I don't know. I could be wrong. I mean, it'll be very interesting to see where we're going to go with this. But that is the Batman news for the movie. And then we're going to go ahead and touch on Batwoman really quick, because we said this last week. We're currently watching the show. We thought it's gotten a lot better, and we're enjoying some aspects of it. We've both seen this past week's episode, and it's a return of the cringe on some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Granted, there was stuff I liked. There was stuff I liked about this episode, but it doesn't seem like the show has found the balance of like when like a little bit of cringe or a little bit of stuff is okay, or campiness, I should say.
Yeah.
And it just seems like it goes with a little bit more cringe. I thought a lot of the like action stuff in this was kind of crap, in my opinion.
Yeah. One thing for me for sure was the very opening scene when we see Magpie and she throws one of her bombs. The very first explosion looked like YouTube level like CGI. And so I was like, oh, this is not starting off great, but let's see how it goes. I did like the story overall, but it was those cringe-worthy moments with Kate Kane with her girlfriend, her new girlfriend or whatever. And that's CW. I love the CW for what it is. It's created a very well-working DC universe, but I understand that it's television. A lot of people online, it's become this new thing to just hate on the CW. I think mainly it's because of jealousy and how they are, a fully fueled train that just like keep going and it keeps going.
It's the same thing with Marvel movies, though. That's how some people are.
It's true. It's everywhere. Yeah. But I just think that the people that are saying that DC CW shows should be as good as something like Batman versus Superman, or like I'm like, okay, that had a $40 million budget for like
$400 million.
$400 million budget, set in like a 3-hour time period when you're looking at an hour show. And everybody just picks apart like 2 seconds every 15 minutes. It's like, oh my God, look how bad this is. And it's just like, oh, we understand. It's TV. Like, calm down. So I understand those moments happen in TV. But when it's consistent, it's just like, ugh, you gotta calm down with a little bit of those. So,
yeah, so I will speak from experience. Hatred sells views. You can see that in a bunch of different things. It's kind of like sex, it sells. Hatred on the internet, specifically YouTube, sells. And Batwoman is the hot ticket right now. Because, man, I searched Batwoman to try to see the trailer for a reaction. Granted, by the way, people asking if I'm going to be doing reactions to the show, I don't want to anymore. I was just like, I don't have anything to say about this show. And I don't want to be that guy as we're talking about right now. That's why I wanted to bring up on the podcast. I don't want to keep repeating myself about stuff, because I think this is going to be a show that I'm going to like some stuff, I'm going to hate some stuff. And I just don't want to be bringing that attitude to the internet, because there's plenty that I found out, people that hate this show. So if you want to find somebody that talks cringe about it, or they're like, oh, this is the stupidest show ever, you can find them. Just search Batwoman reviews. But anyways, so that sells. I will say, which is very interesting, I wasn't bothered by the girlfriend stuff. Like, I didn't find that really cringy. What I found cringe was some of the dialogue she said while fighting Magpie was really cringy. Like, they were like kind of like dancing in the fighting kind of thing with the batarang and stuff. Mm-hmm. There was some cringy moments there, and the thing that sucks too is I prefer Ruby Rose when she's in the suit and not in her regular just normal
civilian
clothing. Yeah. So because I can just believe her a little bit more, but it just always seems like everybody's outperforming her acting-wise, and, that's unfortunate, but that's kind of the way it comes across, in my opinion. But I think she's awesome in the suit, and some of the stuff she did in this was kind of cool. Two really big gripes. The explosions, like you said in this, were really crap, in my opinion, and I don't like that nowadays, or on TV or whatever, explosions happen and everybody's okay or they're just hurt. Explosions blow limbs off. Like, what the heck?
Like whenever I saw that first explosion in the very beginning, I'm like, oh, that guy's dead.
Yeah.
But we didn't hear anything on whether he was injured or not.
Yeah, no.
And then
injured.
Like people were literally walking across the explosions whenever the necklace was blowing up, and I was just like,
and I hated that. I was like, what is she doing? She's like, watch out, watch out. Watch. It looked like she was fucking trying to rush a bull, you know? Like, I was all, what are you doing? And I get that that's something Batman does, but he usually does that to block fire or something. I didn't know his cape was like, I can cover up a bomb and it's, it protects everything. I was like, what? The cape's usually done to protect himself, not like it's this super, bomb casing thing.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of like, it looked kind of dumb too, because I was like, what is she doing? It looked like she was like on a dance floor trying to do some new stuff. And like, I don't know. So that was kind of weird. But like I mentioned in my Discord chat, there's stuff I really enjoy about the show. Like when she turned on the voice thing and it was just a button on her belt, that was cool. I like that. I was like, okay, cool. That's something that shows it's built into the suit and it changes her voice. I thought that was dope. So there are little things that I like about the show, and there are definitely some cringy things. But I don't know. I also don't know, and I know it makes sense and it feels like this, but when what's his name was talking about how Bruce was just depressed as Batman, and like, oh yeah, you got to kind of give this up, and he was, he said everything true, but it always sucks that everybody always points to Bruce being depressed, specifically when we're going through Bruce's happiness right now in the comic books. Like, read the damn comic book, you swine. But yeah, so that's really all the entertainment news we have for you guys. I don't know. Clay had brought this up earlier, and this is some big news on HBO Max has just announced new shows. This isn't really Batman related, but we can kind of speculate on maybe what we want to see in the future. But HBO Max has announced 2 or 3 shows actually.
Yes. 3 shows. Well, 1 renewal and then 3 new shows.
Really? Which one's a renewal?
Renewal is, they announced this back when the trailer came out for HBO Max, is that Doom Patrol is getting a 2nd season. That was already known, but they confirmed it here on this conference with a poster. And people are speculating that it's actually announced for a 2nd season, but actually renewed for 3 and 4. So that would be kind of cool.
That'd be awesome.
But also the 3 new shows, 1 starring Elizabeth Banks, being DC.
So, I don't know if she's in that. I think she's producing it.
Oh, is she producing it?
Yeah, I don't know.
I thought it said starring, but she might just be producing it.
Yeah.
Which is great. She's hilarious. I love all her comedy that she's in. It's DC Superhero High or something like that. Which just reminds me of something like us, being in mid-20s, late 20s, early 30s, a movie called Sky High, if anybody remembers that. I hope it's something like that. A lot of people are also being reminiscent to I think it was a cartoon that was scrapped, or a book that was scrapped, being Gotham High, which was which was supposed to be Bruce Wayne in high school with all of his villains being like the bullies in the high school.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I would like that per se, but I would like to get some just random heroes into that high school and, just play around with it. And then, of course, Strange Tales, which is Adam Strange. Hopefully they can get the guy from Krypton, just because he had an awesome performance in there. I highly recommend watching season 1 and 2 of Krypton to get to know him a little bit more.
Yeah.
But also the last one that is the biggest news, because people are going bananas over it, is the Green Lantern series that is going to be made by Greg Berlanti. He has made the Doom Patrol. He has made Titans. He created all of the DC CW shows. This guy knows DC Comics. He knows these characters. I'm really excited to see what he's going to put into this show. I
love how you say that. Yeah, we just shit on Batgirl or Batwoman. But although Berlanti has been in a bunch of stuff, he's more of a producer.
And And he originally was supposed to be the script writer for the Green Lantern movie that came out with Ryan Reynolds. They actually fired him from that role before the movie came out, and it wasn't his script that they used. So a lot of people give him crap for that, but it wasn't even his script that they used in the movie.
Yeah.
But this does open a lot of doors to saying other DC properties going in there. Juice, if you had a choice into, you know, not necessarily a Batman film or a Batman, you know, himself, what other Batman universe related show would you like to see on HBO Max?
I don't know if I want to see necessarily a Batman universe show. I did this video a long time ago on my YouTube channel. I talked about 7 shows that needed to be on DC Universe, and I talked about an Earth 2 show would be fucking perfect because you can get your Black Batman, I mean, you can get your Black Superman, you can get just a bunch, you can get your gay Green Lantern character. Like, it was a very diverse cast from Earth 2, and you could have had a really cool, diverse show with amazing characters. And you'd have Dick Grayson, Batman. It'd be a lot of cool stuff. So I always thought something like that would be really cool. I feel like HBO could knock that out of the park. I would love something. I want something like very detective-y. So a question show is another thing I had on that video. A fucking question show would be great. If you want to tie it into Gotham, you could have the Question die later or something during the season and have Montoya take over and have it be, you know, her, you know, part of the Question. But yeah, I know she's going to be in the movies, but give me a Huntress show. I think if you want to do a Batman stuff, give me a Huntress show where she's a bounty hunter or she's trying to take out her family. Make it a mob-oriented kind of show, like Sopranos or something. But with
dude,
Huntress
there's a New 52 miniseries that I own that I've been hunting for the past 8 years now. I'm still missing one issue, but that series. If they had something like that where she like travels overseas to like help sex trafficking or like save people from sex trafficking and like take down mobs like overseas, that would be awesome.
Yeah, so something like that. I don't think this is going to be something where, you know, I know everybody's going to be salivating. I'm like, oh my God, we can get Nightwing and we can get this and Red Hood. I think they're saving all of that for the movies. Because that's where they're going to make billions of dollars. You know, if Joker did this well, don't expect everything to always be like Joker, which is about to get near $900 million, by the way.
Well, I will say also, they announced at the conference that as soon as HBO Max does come into, you know, is starting to stream, they get first rights on Joker. It's going to be ready to stream when HBO Max launches. So I think that's awesome.
I would assume they would get first rights to everything. 1, because they're HBO. 2, because they own the properties. So I'm pretty sure that's something that they did. Unless, you know, Netflix isn't like, we'll give you $1 billion for it. So we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, I don't know. What would you be into seeing on this network?
You know, I really dig the Earth 2 idea. That would be awesome. For me, I think I would like a... we already are getting a Titans show on DC Universe. If they don't switch that to HBO Max, I would really like to see I would say Teen Titans, for me personally. You know, maybe introduce the world to Damian Wayne. Not a whole lot of people know him. I would also like, you know, they're already making one on, you know, the CW, the Superman Lois show. But I would, you know, I think I would be okay with a news, like a Daily Planet show. That would be kind of cool. Be a little bit more serious. Be that political, you know, show that a lot of people...
Basically the Lois Lane comic right now?
Yeah, basically. I think it was called The Newsroom, and it was on HBO or Stars, one of the two.
Yeah, I'm not too sure the network, but yeah, I getcha.
But something like that, I think that would be kind of intense. But other than that, I don't know. Like, go weird, you know, and do like a freaking Dead Man. You know?
That'd be kind of cool. I would like another like serious villain show. Like, give me a Zaz show where he's a serial killer.
Oh, like and Dexter, like, but Zaz, and not be the good guy. He just be evil.
Yeah, but I think I think the problem there is, I don't think you could ever like a Zaz. And, you know, you could like Dexter. So who would be... You could have a good Red Hood show because he's always on the edge of, like, am I, you know, going to be the fucking Punisher or am I going to be Batman? Yeah. And so, like, that would be a good moral conflict. That's what you had with Dexter. Like, Dexter was so good because he only killed bad people.
You know what? If this is true, you know, with Doom Patrol being, you know, streamable on HBO Max, I assume that other DC Universe originals will be streamable on HBO Max. Let's say, you know, a spinoff comes from Titans. Let's make an Outsider show. That could be cool. That could be a little bit on the edge.
Yeah.
Because of the way Katana fights, because of the way Black Lightning is. I think that would work.
Yeah, see, the only thing that sucks about that is I feel like Titans has already kicked itself in the ass if down the line HBO's like, yeah, you can have Batman in a show because we're now on HBO Max and we want to sell it. Your Batman's hella old already, and that kind of sucks. So,
yeah.
And it, you know, fans of Game of Thrones will know who it is, but you know, it's Ser Jorah, but you know that kind of sucks. So yeah, that kind of it'll be interesting to see what happens with HBO Max. They didn't get their Game of Thrones, so they're gonna really be banking on this, you know. Stuff.
Well, they did order one series. It's a prequel series that's 6 episodes.
So I don't know yet because one just got canceled today. They shot a pilot and they were like, no, like we're not gonna pick this up.
Yikes!
So that it was with some chick that was really popular. I forget her name. But so that got canceled, and those dudes that rushed the final season, which are the 2 creators of Game of Thrones, are no longer going to be in that Star Wars series. And that kind of pisses me off because apparently they rushed the last season so they could do that damn Star Wars series, and now they're not doing it. So I'm just like, wow. I was like, wow. People are definitely going to be hating them for a while. But that's enough non-Batman talk. I feel like we could do a whole other podcast on pop culture stuff. But we have enough podcasts going right now, so we don't need to worry about that. But we're going to go ahead and jump into the comics now, people, because we got 2 Black Label books, a really good Nightwing book, and a interesting annual for Batman that, you know, Clay had some interesting opinions on, and we'll be talking about that later. That'll be the final thing we talk about. But first, we're going to talk about a book that we have covered on this before. Actually, no, that's a lie. We'll cover that next. But we're going to talk about another Joker book. Which Joker's always, it's Halloween. It's actually Halloween right now. It's midnight as we're recording this on October 31st. So happy Halloween to everybody listening to this. Although it'll be November or something when this goes live. But there's this new Black Label book by Jeff Lemire. And it is called Joker Killer Smile. And Clay, I know I think I read this before you. But what were your thoughts on this book?
You know, we made our speculations before we even got these review copies, before we had the chance to read them. We said, this is gonna be interesting because we've already read a book like this being like Harleen. We are seeing a lot of people studying Joker. We're even getting it in the other Harley book. What was the other one titled?
Insanity?
Yeah, Criminal Insanity. Yeah. You know, that book as well is also studying Joker in a way. So, you know, I that's the one thing that kind of irks me about Black Label, but hopefully we can move, you know, past this. I think it's, for one, it's October, it's Halloween. They're wanting to push something like this. And I'm okay with that, because it's good content. Jeff Lemire, and I forgot the artist's name. The artist is
Andre Sorrentino.
Yes.
And Jordi Bellerie.
Yes. So this is the exact same creative team that comes out of Image's Gideon Falls, which is critically acclaimed.
Getting a show?
Yes,
right?
And it's also getting a show. It's critically acclaimed. It's a really well-written story. A lot of people have also given this book, saying that it's like another Image title called Ice Cream Man, which is, really creepy in my eyes because I don't do horror all that much. Mm-hmm. But it's still a really good book, and it had that same feeling. This book, when I read it, I was like, okay, is it going to, the one thing that everybody thought the movie Joker was going to do, I thought that was this, because it starts off with, I've always just wanted to make art. I wanted everything to be beautiful. I wanted people to be happy. And I'm just like, no, I can't sympathize with this because I know who the Joker is.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's this new doctor that's reading it. I like how they kind of tease at the fall of Harley Quinn because one of the other doctors says, I can't lose another well-versed doctor or something like that. I can't remember the exact quote.
Yeah.
But not much happens in this story, to be completely honest.
No.
Other than this guy kind of hallucinating, this doctor, and Joker really getting in his head, nothing really happens. And it leaves you on a cliffhanger that's like, God damn, I really need to get this next issue. So I really like that. I do wonder, like, how Joker got into his head when it really seems like this guy has seemed to draw the line and really know, hey, I'm only going to be doing this. I'm only going to be doing this. Yeah. You know, he's not a guy that really pushes boundaries. He doesn't seem like the guy to push boundaries, especially with him having a kid, like a family, a wife, a kid. I will say that the book, like when he was reading it to his kid, I was like, what the what kind of fucking book is he reading to his kid? And then when Joker quoted it, I was like, oh shit, this is getting dark. So really interesting. I'm really enjoying it. The art style isn't my favorite, but because of how they're wanting this book to be portrayed, I enjoyed it for the aesthetic.
Yeah. Yeah, so this book was, I think, as I was reading this, I was falling half asleep when I started. I was reading Harleen, which is a book we'll talk about next. That was 66 pages, so I was like, whoa. I took a break while reading it, finished it, and then I was like, well, I'm still kind of wide awake. Let me just go ahead and read this Joker one. So I read this one. My first thought was like, wow, there's so many similarities to Harleen because she's like psychoanalyzing the Joker in that book for 2 books already. And now I'm getting another book of just a male trying to psychoanalyze the Joker. And then one thing you'll always notice is people always try to do this to the Joker, and he's just always better than you. Like, you're not going to beat him. It's the only reason why he's so good against Batman. You know what I mean? And, of course, everybody in this book, and even Joker, I don't know if Joker says it in this book or if he says it in Harleen, but he flat out tells him, he's like, look, I know you're just a new guy trying to make your jollies off on, like, trying to break me or trying to find out who I am or something like that. Or if somebody else says that to them. Mm-hmm. And, that's kind of everybody's end game is to, like, ooh, if I could figure out the Joker, I'll be a bajillionaire. And that's kind of what I got a sense from this. But the thing that I did start loving at the end of this, I was like, knowing that this guy is so troubled by the Joker, like, because he's constantly thinking about him, that it already seems like Joker's not just in his head, Joker's in his house. And that's the one thing I've always loved about Joker, because you mentioned that he referenced the book, but in one panel in there, the dad stops reading the book. He's like, when did I buy this for you? He's like, I don't ever remember getting this for you. And the kid's like, you promised. But the guy's already having these weird, like, visions, so he thinks, like, maybe I did buy this for him, and I just did it by accident.
Well, see, that's why it's such an interesting story, because after he reads the book, he goes to his wife, and he's like, okay, and he has this face like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah. And they have, like, a small back and forth, and his wife is like, hey, what was that thing you were going to tell me? You look kind of worried. He's like, oh, it's nothing. And then all of a sudden, he wakes up in the middle of the night, and he's, like, going to do something. Yeah. And then his wife is like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just going to check something in my office. You can go back to bed. She's like, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. We're getting ready. And he's like, what? Yeah. But the really cool thing was the visual right before he woke up was the balloon, and it popped as if, like, he got infected with something. Mm-hmm. So that's my theory, is that somehow Joker has gotten into his food, into his, like, something that has to be on him that he got in contact with, and now he's basically a sleeper agent for the Joker.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing we didn't mention. At the beginning of this book, it shows one of Joker's, like, master plans that happened, where he released all these red and green balloons in the city, and they all popped, and people got Jokerized. And then it just has, like, this one panel that says punch of Batman knocking him out. And I thought that was really cool. And now, of course, Joker, as always, is back in Arkham and is being treated and everything. And, so I do think Joker is in this guy's head. Joker's always been that kind of person that gets to your close ones. Like, in every good Joker story, he's at somebody's house. He's done it to Batman. He got the whole Bat family in Endgame. and or I should say death of the family, not death in the family, to get confused, where he kills Jason Todd.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what's always been so good and creepy about the Joker, is just when you think he's not going to do something or you have the upper hand and you're safe, you're not. He already knows exactly who you are before you even meet him, it seems. So, that's what's good, and he usually does this kind of thing. He doesn't fuck with the kid, he doesn't fuck with the mom until he wants to. And it's like, he could just be a normal killer, like, oh, I killed your family, oh, woo. But he's like, no, I'm going to leave this book here, and I'm going to quote it later to fuck with you. And that's what always makes him so terrifying, and yet so great and brilliant of a character. And so, yeah, like you said, there's not a lot that happened in this book, but it did what any good book should do, and it made me want to read the next one.
Yeah.
So, shout out to Jeff Lemire and his whole team, the creative team on this. And, I'm excited to see this. I will say, though, Black Label has what? Not including Hellblazer, 7 titles? 6 of them have the Joker? Something like that? Because you have Damned, you have this one, you have Harleen, you have Criminal Insanity. Maybe I added some, so 4. Right? Those are all the Black Labels. The only other Black Label books that have come out are Superman, and now, if you did include Hellblazer, that's 6 books.
Yeah, there's also a question book coming later, but I don't see Joker being in that book at all. Yeah. And then Birds of Prey will be on Black Label later on. Yeah, in January.
I don't remember hearing about that.
Well, in December, technically.
Oh, but is that the, what's-his-face writing that?
Yeah.
The Damned?
Azzarello.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be a regular ongoing title that was going to be in main continuity, but since then it has switched to Black Label, and it's only been, it got shot down to 3 books. So we don't know if Azzarello is just not playing ball with DC, or if DC is doing this on purpose just to kind of get him out of the way, which is unfortunate because he's a really good storyteller.
Yeah, he's a great writer. I love a lot of his stuff. I love his non-DC stuff. I own his, if I'm not mistaken, he did 100 Bullets. Yeah. That show, which was actually bought by Tom Hardy's freaking production company and hasn't been done with anything. But yeah, I absolutely love Azzarello. I don't think we'll see any bat penis in that one. Or, Birds of Prey boobs or anything like that. Because apparently, Damn 2 was supposed to have some nudity with Harley Quinn, and they had to redraw all that.
Yep.
Really hoping we see those pages one day. Like the actual story of what Damned was supposed to be. I don't know if we'll ever get that, but I'm hoping 10-year anniversary. Here's what it was actually.
NDAs are basically for 20 plus years, so we'll see.
That's crazy. So yeah, that's pretty much all we have to say about Joker Killer Smile. But moving on to the book I promoted before we started talking about Joker Smile, the Smile book, is Harleen, which is actually drawn by, how do you say his name?
So it's Stepan Sajic.
Okay. So, yeah, that guy. I'm just terrible with his name. But if you guys don't remember us talking about this book, this is the book that I mentioned had a very fan art film, or I should say, what did I call fanfic? Yeah, fanfic film, feel to it. And I told this to Clay just to give a short summary of this. I was like, hey, did anything happen in this book besides the whole Two-Face drama? And he was like, not really. And that was kind of unfortunate because this whole book is just a slow descent of Harley going into falling in love with the Joker, pretty much. And we see that at the end of this book. She's basically been pretty much defeated at this point, in my opinion, to where Joker's got her exactly where I want her.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how it ends, because you see her actually take off his jacket at the end, his straight jacket, and cuts the video of where she's recording him, and then he's kind of like hugging her at the end, which was, I could have done without, but I don't know, it was just kind of weird.
The big thing about this book was in the very beginning of the book, I want to say the first 15 pages or so, Joker is telling Harley that everybody is a monster when they're born, and that everybody wears a mask, and at the like I said, everybody's a monster. Everybody at the root of themselves is evil, and that's just like messing with Harley's head, because her whole theory on curing the Joker was that he would feel some remorse, some sort of like, or he's unable to have any feelings or something like that. Yeah. And that breaks her theory entirely, and it like shatters, the possibility of her cure working on Joker. And so at that point, that's why she's all messed up. She's just like, I can't deal with this. I'm going to go home and drink. And that's when she gets the call about what happened earlier on with the Joker. I mean, with Harvey Dent, which, spoilers, has been on several different cartoons, plus The Dark Knight. It's just his face getting, burnt. And that causes a whole lot of drama. And that's the part I didn't like, actually. It was just very convenient that right after she has this conversation, that 3 different instances, all taped for the, audience, whoever's watching the news, gets to see that, freaking the mob burns burns Harvey Dent's face, and then after that, vigilante police officers kill that mobster. Yeah. And so she was saying, during all these videos that she's watching on the news, just that morning she was wanting to punch Harvey Dent herself. And so she's like, man, what if the Joker is right? Blah, blah, blah. And even when she's interviewing different candidates throughout Arkham, all she can think about is Joker. Yeah. And so that's why I say, this was just her defining moments of, hey, I think Joker has, some right. He is right in some things. Yeah. Which I do like that small, I think 2 or 3 panels in the very beginning where she like basically had a dream, or I don't know if it was her having a dream or if it was actually like showing you in the future.
Oh, when she's Harley Quinn?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's in the future.
Okay.
Yeah. So that actually happens.
That, out of everything else, I know everything else is fanfic and it's just very poppy. Those 2 panels looked so good.
Yeah. So that was kind of cool. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, that is like kind of like a future thing, because I want to say she talks about herself in the past tense later. But I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's future stuff. Yeah, no, I mean, it is, I will say that it is doing what it's supposed to be doing. I don't like that it is like, oh yeah, you're slowly seeing this love story happen, but it's what happens. Like, Harley Quinn falls in love with the Joker, and so, like, the book is getting across what it needs to get across. I just, like, I'm not 100% into it, is what I will say. I like the first book after a while. I do think it still is too long. Like 66 pages is just too long.
After the 20-page mark, I was like, let's just see how many pages I have left. And then I saw the 66 and I was like, yikes.
Yeah, and I get like Two-Face and stuff doesn't really need to be there. I feel like they're just throwing that in there, but I understand that it's being used as a like Joker's like, hey, see, everybody turns bad. He was the White Knight. This is Harvey Dent. He turned bad. Blah, blah. I know that they're giving little instances like that. One thing I did enjoy in this book was Harley went to Gordon and talked about, like, I need to talk to him. I need to talk to Batman. And so she actually has a conversation with Batman. And it was cool because she asks, like, why don't you kill them? Like, why do you keep them alive? Why do you arrest them? Do you believe
I like
there's
that
hope?
scene. I like that scene a lot.
Batman was saying, like, yeah, I mean, I have hope. Do you not think that they can be changed and stuff like that? And that's what I've always liked, because I've always hated when people are like, oh, man, realistically, Batman has to kill. No, he doesn't. That's why he's a superhero. That's why he's looked up to. He's not perfect, but he doesn't have to kill, and he does it because he believes that, these people can change. And there have been plenty of instances in Batman lore where Batman has caught criminals and they have conformed and they've become better. His persona as Bruce Wayne has even give some of these people jobs so they can have better lives. So, I've always loved that aspect of Batman, that, no matter what, it's not just being a badass and a billionaire and getting all the ladies or anything like that. It's not that. Batman's always been the person I think people want to be that doesn't give up on people. Yeah. Because I think anybody else...
Well, I was going to say the line that he has that made me like, yeah, this is Batman, is he says, I don't kill because I don't want to give up on them or on myself.
Yeah.
I love that line. That line was so perfect. And, you know, surprisingly, you know, with this artist, he got really famous because of the fanfic that he put out there with Harley and Joker, with Batman, with a lot of characters in DC, with his Sunstone, you know, graphic novel that he has out, his indie stuff or whatever. You know, I always thought of him as just an artist. So to see him produce this kind of writing, I'm okay with him writing more stuff, to be honest. Yeah. After this, I'm so down with, you know, him trying something new. So
yeah, no, I am enjoying the story. I just think it's a bit long because I want to be able to just read a story all the way through. Granted, I was kind of tired when I started reading this, and I think if I was at work and I was just sitting down reading a book, I could be able to read this in one sitting.
You know, that's going to be interesting when this comes out in trade. How am I going to be able to read it? Am I going to read it in 3 parts, or am I going to be able to sit through it and actually read all the way through?
Yeah, and that'll be interesting. See, so if I'm not mistaken, Damned is the first trade to come out, right?
Yes.
Is it still in the big format? Like, I haven't bought that book yet.
It is in a more it looks more square than it does rectangle, because a lot of these books are rectangle. It looks more square, so it is in that oversized print.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, it'll be very interesting, and I think, you know, I am collecting all of these books as they come out so I can read them, because they are very month to month or bi-monthly or whatever. And so I'm really interested to keep reading them. And yeah, I haven't read Superman, but I will say for the most part, Black Label hasn't disappointed me. I thought it's been pretty good. I mean, I guess technically isn't Curse of the White Knight Black Label?
Yes.
Right?
So the first one was not, and then they put a Black Label on the trade, even though nothing was added to that Black Label edition. But this one is technically Black Label, yes.
Yeah. So that means Joker's in 5 things then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he's dominating Black Label. But yeah, so with Harleen, like I said, I'm enjoying it. There are things I just think it's a little too long, and it does feel very fanfic. And I think, you know, the next one is supposed to be the final one, and it's going to have the most fanfic in it, because we've already seen one panel from it. That's supposed to be like a little kinky panel or something like that. And it's just like, oh, yeah. So I'm hoping that this story ends on a high note. We did have just one of our favorite series that we're not really going to talk about because nothing really Batman-related happened in it, but Deceased, we both kind of fell flat, which was one of probably the greatest series of 2019, I would go out and say.
Oh, yeah. Easily. Definitely.
Yeah. So, yeah, unfortunately, it's very hard to stick the landing, ladies and gentlemen. So, which is what scares me about the current Batman run, because I've loved it so far, but if it falls flat, I'm like, ugh. Technically, I won't really find out until the end of 2020. But, that's something we can actually talk about, is Tom King coming out and announcing that Batcat's been delayed. But
we forgot to talk about that.
So, sorry, I just literally thought about this before, as I was talking. So, we've talked about Tom King's run, you know, since the start of this podcast. It's what started this podcast, to be honest. But we know that after Batman 85, Tom King is going to move on from the main Batman title. It's going to be taken over by James Tynion, and Batman is going to write Batman and Catwoman, Batcat for short, and it's going to be a 12-issue series like his Mr. Miracle story, like his Vision story. Well, I don't know if Vision was 12 issues.
Yes,
but,
it was.
You know, okay. So it's going to be these maxi series that Tom King's very known for. And what we found out was, you know, Clay was mentioning to me, was it the beginning of this month when the solicits come out? The solicits came out and Batcat wasn't there, and everybody was like, whoa, what's going on here? Some people, of course, it's the internet, were speculating, oh, DC's pushing it back, DC wants them to change all this stuff, it's not going to happen, blah, blah, blah. And Tom King, I even asked Tom King myself on Twitter, I got back on just to ask him, I was like, hey, man, like, what's going on with Batcat? Like, is it going to come out still, blah, 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 can you confirm this? And Tom King actually posted on all his social medias talking about how when you have a story that you think is going to be great, that you have to make minimal compromises on it. And he says that he's been talking over it. Like the first few scripts are already done, and they're being drawn already. But his artist, who's one of his best friends, his name is Clay Mann, one of the greatest artists in comics right now.
Yes.
Said he was like, hey, I can draw this whole thing, but you got to give me time. So it's going to be 12 issues. I talked to Tom King at Comic-Con, and Tom King said that Clay Mann, with his just beautiful art style, there was no way he was going to be able to do all 12. And so somebody was going to come in and do like 3 issues, if I remember Tom telling me right. And so I was like, I mean, we literally talked about it on the podcast. If you come from Clay Mann's beautiful art and then the next artist does not live up to that same kind of style, it ruins the story.
JRJR.
Yeah, it ruins a story. So I don't like that it's been pushed back, but knowing that Clay Mann is now going to draw 12 issues of Batman and Catwoman, which I told Clay this, and Clay thought I was kind of crazy, but I read Batman 78 and 79, which are both done by Clay Mann, like 3 or 4 times, like in the amount of time that I had it. I loved those books just because I love Batcat. I love the stories. The drawings were gorgeous. And now I'm going to get 12 issues of that. So, like, I'm super stoked. And I wonder if, do you think we still get it all by the end of 2020, or you think this spills into 2021?
With it being pushed back to March, he did say it's going to be pushed back to March, the first issue. It is going to go into 2021.
Yeah.
I don't see them, unless they say, hey, one extra issue is ready. Let's throw it in an annuals week. And for people who don't know, annuals week is usually for that 5th week in a month. This podcast is being held on an annuals week. Yeah. That's why a whole lot of non-continuity books came out. But that's the only way an extra book would come out. I don't see them wanting to really rush this. Yeah. I think spacing it out is good for them, just to get more money, to be honest. Yeah. Unless things are going to dramatically change with the DC, with 5G, and this book gets canned, midway through, which I hope it doesn't.
No, I don't see it happening. I think it'll stay. The funny thing is, this is going to be the saving grace for the people that if they hate 5G, they're like, Tom King's still doing stuff that's in the regular. He's got Bruce Wayne and Catwoman.
Basically.
Let's buy that. And this might actually push DC Black Label sales. If they're not going to be in continuity and they're just going to be telling stories with the regular characters, I can see DC Black Label killing it with their stories. Because people are going to be like, oh, yeah, I want to read Bruce Wayne. I want to read this. And they'll be like, oh, yeah, go read our more adult, mature stuff. So, you know what? That'd be kind of cool. And, yeah, I'm excited. I can only envision how beautiful that hardcover for Batcat's going to be with all of Clay Mann's interior and his, design. I don't know people that are listening to this, I don't know if you guys collect trades, but recently DC has been doing this thing where they print the art on the actual hardcover of their trades now. It looks gorgeous. Like, the one that came out for Heroes in Crisis is just Booster Gold and, forgetting his name, Blue Beetle sitting on the couch, which was one of these, popular panels inside the book. Looks absolutely gorgeous. So I can't wait to see that. But speaking of annuals week, we got 2 annuals come up. And I'm going to let Clay talk about this one because it features his favorite guy. And the story that we've hated for so long is finally going somewhere.
Dude, let me just say, and for people who don't know this, in Batman 56. It was Batman 56 and then continued in Nightwing 50. So in Batman 56, KG Beast planted himself in a random hotel room and shot to the top of GCPD and shot Nightwing square in the head. And this caused him to lose his memory. So we thought. Because that was the big thing. It was very controversial. Dick did not want to be called Dick. He wanted to be called Rick, Richard, either one. And his whole attitude changed. His persona changed. He wasn't Nightwing anymore. He has slowly started to realize that he was basically the Jason Bourne of the DC universe, because his reflexes and everything would just go on command, whether it be like falling off a rooftop or like dodging a car or doing whatever. And he's like, okay, well, this is not going to stop happening, so I need to use these skills to help people. And so he is not necessarily Nightwing right now, but he's in the Nightwing Club because a whole lot of police officers in Bloodhaven have found his Nightwing cave, or the bird, his bird box, basically, and took all of his costumes, and now they are the Nightwing clan, or whatever they're calling them, Nightwing gang. And so this story here, this annual number 2, is the annual that has everything just cleared out for you. I want to thank Jurgens so much for actually doing something with this story, because I have told everybody today that I think we've had 3 writers since Rick has been in the picture, 2 or 3, and they saw this opportunity to do absolutely nothing with the character. And because it was like, okay, I can't turn him into Nightwing because DC is telling me to keep him as Rick. I don't know what to do. Let's have random adventures. And so they just did all that. Jurgens is actually taking this thing and saying, hey, let's give him a reason for not having a memory, and which we thought was just the bullet. But on top of getting hit by a bullet, we find out, and this is a story that is still technically continuing the main continuity of this title, that the Court of Owls are back. And Nightwing does have ancestry that was in the Court of Owls, his grandfather. And we learned in the New 52 of Batman that Nightwing was always supposed to become part of the court.
Yeah, we also learned that Batman can knock out your tooth with one fist.
Yes.
Perfectly, like the perfect tooth. He knows exactly how to knock it out.
So, don't need a dentist, just need Batman. Yeah. So we learned all that almost 8 years ago, almost 9 years ago. Yeah. And so now we find out that they have basically been giving him this medicine or this serum or whatever, this concoction, to basically lose his memory over time. Yeah. And that blew my freaking mind. And I was like, oh shit. Like, it wasn't the bullet. And I told everybody, because Jurgens gave an actual reason why he has lost his memory, in return, there must be a way to bring it back now. Like, if you bring that up, there has to be an opposite. And so, like, we're finally getting to a point where, like, okay, this is all coming to a head. Like, either Dick is going to become a court of owl, he's going to become an owl, and, like, the heroes will turn him back into Dick Grayson, or, you know, he finds out that this evil court is, you know, trying to make him evil, and he goes against it, and then he gets his memories back. Yeah. You know, we recently got a quote from Jim Lee regarding the 5G, regarding the new Batman title coming with Tynion, and he said, and I quote, "I will do everything in my power to," what do you say? He said, to save Dick Grayson, or to save Nightwing. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, those are some big words, Jim Lee. Like, don't fuck around with my character here. Like, don't do it. But I think Jurgens is really, really, you know, putting a foot forward and saying, hey, we need to do something with this character. And I'm loving, I love this annual. I don't know how long it'll take, but this actually gets me interested enough to say, hey, you know what? I think I might start actually reading Nightwing right now. So,
yeah, nice. Real quick on the 5G thing. He said Nightwing. He said Nightwing, or he said Dick Grayson?
I think he said Nightwing. So that does scare me a little bit with, you know, keeping the name Rick.
It could be, because we've been having this discussion, and I'm kind of working on a project right now about this whole thing. But it could be Damian, because we don't have a reason why Damian's not Batman. Yeah. So what if Damian's Nightwing? So that might be something. Wow. But because that would, why isn't he Batman? Why is he Nightwing instead? You know, it'll be very interesting. But going back to this annual, I have to say that Clay read this before me, And I was like, all right, well, is this going to be worth covering? He's like, yeah, man, it's worth covering on the podcast. And I was like, okay, so I was intrigued to read it. And I was reading it. I am somebody that loves backstory. I love it. Like, I don't know why. Okay, this is how I can tell you how much I love it. I'm the kind of guy that will watch fillers in anime. That's the kind of person I am, and that is the best way I can, promote that.
All
Everybody hated the
17,000
Excalibur episodes in Soul Eater.
Oh, God, no.
I watched those episodes. Fools!
I skipped the last two of his.
So, like, I always watch, like, filler episodes just because it gives you little things of backstory. Same thing in Dragon Ball Z, another one of my favorite shows. So it felt like a filler, but a filler with great information. And of course, it progresses the story. And I did really enjoy this. I've always loved to see Bruce care for his kids. And, granted, they're not his kids, but he has taken them in, and that's how he treats it. And, like, it was cool seeing Damien on top of, Grayson's bed. He was like, you need to wake up. Like, you need to wake up now. And how, Grayson thought that was actually a dream. But he was like, yeah, I just felt like there was somebody, like, over me or whatever. And that was really cool because, Damien was basically telling him, like, Batman's going crazy. Like, he's,
Dude, it hurt my heart, like, when he wouldn't get up, like, he wouldn't wake up, and then Damien, like, jumped out the window, and you saw, like, tears coming down his face. I was like, oh, no, I'm sorry, Damien. I'm so sorry.
So, like, that was really well done. And then Batman has, like, flown out, like, the specialist. We find out later on that Batman, who was like, I've flown out the best person because, nobody in Bloodhaven, or in Gotham could help Dick. And freaking Batman was like, I'm flying in the best person. He's a billionaire. He can do whatever he wants. And so the best person comes out, and it's this woman, and she's all like, yeah, he's waking up right now, blah, blah. And when he wakes up, he doesn't remember any of them. And, Batman, Bruce Wayne at this point is just all like, this is unacceptable, like, what's going on? And he even, like, questions Dick Grayson. He's like, look, I need the room. I need to talk to him. And he sends everybody out, even the doctor.
Hello?
And he tells him, he's like, look, we're here. You don't need to put up you don't need to put up this farce. Like, you can talk to me. How are you feeling? He's like, you don't need to pretend like that you're not Nightwing or whatever. Like, we told them it was like a car accident or something like that. They said it was something crazy that he got shot. Like, it wasn't a mugging. I forget. I'd have to read the book again. But he's trying to say that they can actually, speak in, real words or whatever. They don't have to use code. He's like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Like, Nightwing's just going crazy with this. And it was really interesting to see that. And he's like, you're not joking. So Bruce leaves the room, and he tries to tell the doctor, like, what is going on here? You need to fix this, blah, blah, blah. He's like, if you can't fix this, I'll find somebody better. And the doctor's like, well, you can do that. That's in your right, but you're not going to find anybody better. So Bruce kind of has to just deal with it. And we find out later in the comic that she's actually been giving him the drugs, and she is the reason that he's not getting better, which I found really crazy, but at the same time really awesome. And we found there was like this nice flashback. The reason why Dick Grayson loves Bloodhaven so much is because it's actually one of the places where he has one of his fondest memories. And since he was part of the Flying Graysons, so his family was on the road a lot, and they actually find other Grayson family members in Bloodhaven, and they have like this Thanksgiving dinner, and that's where he just remembers being like one of the happiest moments of his life, and that is why he goes back to Bloodhaven. So I thought that was really awesome. That Dick Grayson, it shows why he's in why he loves Bloodhaven so much. And I was actually somebody that always questioned that. I'm like, why the hell did he go to Bloodhaven? Like, what's so special about it? Dan Jurgens has actually gave Nightwing, aka Dick Grayson, a reason for loving Bloodhaven so much. And we always thought it was just to become just to have a new start, just to do whatever. But no, it was actually that he had a memory there when he was a child, and I thought that was pretty awesome.
I thought that was very interesting just because we haven't really gotten a whole lot of Dick Grayson and the Flying Graysons background, so I really enjoyed that aspect. Knowing that there's more of Grayson's family out there is a little weird, because at that point it would be like, I know it's a little technical and just be like, oh, Clay, you're thinking too much into it, but for me, I was like, oh, well, if the parents died, wouldn't the next of kin get Grayson if they died? So, but other
I think
than
they
that,
mentioned it in the comic book. I think they said that they had passed before his parents died. I think
oh
that might
really?
have got mentioned. Yeah. I think he said that they had, or he did say his parents passed. No, I think he said his parents passed before the next time they went through Bloodhaven.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so maybe. But then again, his dad did say, yeah, like, oh yeah, this is the first time I'm meeting them. So the parents probably didn't think about making them the next of kin, you know? That's literally their first time meeting
That's
them.
true.
So, yeah, I don't think you're looking into that too much, but... so yeah, I don't know. I thought that was really cool because, again, I'm a big fan of, you know, the backstory and stuff like that. But yeah, you know, I'm just finally glad that story's going somewhere. Although the main run has not been anywhere as good as that annual was, though. Like, because they're currently doing the Talon stuff, and like it's currently doing Quarter Hour stuff, but even that has been just okay. So,
Yeah, and I don't know if they're just like teasing it or anything, but the big thing that's been grabbing my attention is there's a lot of covers featuring Dick Grayson in the Talon uniform. So I'll be interested to see if that legitimately happens. So I think I think curiosity more than anything is driving this book. And Jurgen said that he wanted to do a character study for Rick as a person. And so I mean, being a character study and still having action in it is a little weird, you know, just because I see character studies in like the Black Label books that are nothing compared to this book here. So I don't know, like I want it to be good because I followed Nightwing through Rebirth all the way until he got shot, basically. And then as soon as I think I took Rick Grayson for 3 issues, and then I stopped buying it. So
yeah, and I think that's a lot of people because that story was going nowhere fast. But hey, it looks like it's going somewhere good. So we're gonna jump over to the final annual, which was Batman Annual number 4. This one's actually done by Tom King. Tom King has done. Did he do Annual number 1? I think he did. I'm not too sure.
I
That was one
think
with
he
Ace.
did. I think the only one he didn't do was the Tom
last
Taylor Father's Day.
Yeah, which was Annual
issue
number 3.
3, yeah.
Yeah, so all the annuals have been pretty solid in my opinion. Annual number 2, it was just amazing. That was like the start of everybody's love for Tom King's Batman and Catwoman, which I think that was a great story. And then last year was the Father's Day one, which was Annual number 3. And this one, Tom King, I think this is a very interesting comic with this one because it's basically following. It's more than a week, but a majority of the story happens in a week. And it's following Batman on an everyday, basically like a day in the life. Just imagine if Batman vlogged, this is what would happen. He's just basically doing everything he does in a day. And the perspective of the story is being told from Alfred's diary. So it's like Alfred was the one writing all this stuff down. And we get all of these different, like the first 3 stories, there's like 3 basically big stories that happen in the book. It's like Batman fighting some villains on top of a rooftop with some horses and stuff. That's like one day. Then the next day, the next story is actually told over like a year or so, and it's Batman fighting this one guy in like a UFC ring, this fighter that's like undefeated and is challenging Batman. And they discuss how, you know, Batman turned down all the stuff and he like didn't want to fight him. The guy said he'd put up like millions of dollars for charity, blah blah blah. And then it turns out that, you know, he ended up beating his wife, got away with it scot-free. And Batman was like, you know what, I'll take the fight. Because he wanted to actually, you know, give this guy some justice. And this would be the perfect way to kick this guy's ass and to also get some money for charity. And so that was another day. And then so basically the whole concept of the issue is just a day in the life of Batman. He fights a dragon with a sword. He goes and solves this mystery of this family. Basically, it seems like that new movie coming out from Ryan Johnson, Knives or whatever. That's what one of these stories was in here. It pretty much felt like that. And then there's another story of, you know, Bruce meeting one of his like childhood, like not sweethearts, but girls that he was interested in right before he left.
Oh,
to
the
go
homecoming
train.
dance, or I think it was the prom. I think it was the prom.
It was like a prom thing. And then, and then there was just like, so it's a bunch of stories like that from the perspective of, you know, Alfred, and it's him, solving like this nuclear deal, like stopping this nuclear cell of codes to launch nukes in Gotham. And so you're basically seeing Alfred tell these stories of how just badass Batman is, but it adds time to a story. And that's one thing that not a lot of stories in comic books do. They never say like this takes place in a year or it takes place in 5 hours. It's always kind of skewed because nobody ever wants to put the finite details in that, because then of course comic book fans are like, well, how is that even possible, because Flash travels at a speed of blah 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 blah. And then a lot of writers just won't even include days or times or whatever just to avoid the scrutiny. Tom King's actually somebody that's actually loved time in his comic books. He did it in The Button, where he had to kill a whole minute in the series, and he did one panel every second in that of Bruce just getting his ass kicked by the Flash, or I should say Reverse Flash. And I thought that was really cool. So I love the way he plays with time. And then as the story goes on, it breaks away from the big stories, and it starts going into these just like minuscule small stories with just panels, like big panels, small panels. And it's just like, April 1st fights a bunch of mummies. April 2nd fights dragons. April 3rd fights sharks. And it just goes into this crazy just a day in the life of Batman. And I thought this was pretty awesome. And I really enjoyed it, but I want Clay to talk about it because he had a little bit more different opinion on it. He said he liked it, but he also thought some parts were goofy. So, Clay, go ahead and give the peeps your thoughts on this.
Yeah, when I first opened this book and I saw them riding horses, I was like, oh, cool, this has like a really like John Wick feel to it, just because we just recently saw John Wick 3, and that's how it opened, with the whole horse, chase scene or whatever. And then it explained that they were on rooftops, and I kind of rolled my eyes, but I was like, okay, Batman has done weirder stuff. But that was one story, and it took, I think, like 2 or 3 pages. And then it talked about the dragon scene, where he cuts the dragon from top to bottom, and then another dragon comes out of the stomach, and then he cuts that one's head off, and then a smaller dragon comes from the head. And, that was like, okay, it was really convenient that the monk that released this dragon, his ancestors, the sword that they made was in the museum that they were able to find, and just all these things. And of course, this is just Alfred's perspective on telling these stories. And the third one was the charity fight, and then, like you said, it just goes on, almost panel by panel, of different stories. And at the very end, it became very campy and very cheesy. I did enjoy the first 3 stories, and then when it became just one panel stories, I didn't really like those all that much, because I wanted more from it, Mm-hmm. It's more of show don't tell kind of thing. And because I would love that, annuals take advantage of having, more page counts. So I would have loved a little bit more from this book like that. I honestly think, and Tom King did say that this book does not connect to anything, but technically it does, because there were some panels that were featured from the I Am Bane series that he wrote in the very beginning of Rebirth. There was pictures of just old school, like Golden Age comics. So it does connect technically, but he was saying that it wasn't connecting, and I think that's because in case people tried to throw backlash at him, he could have said, hey, I said it wasn't connected to anything. But I also think that they wanted to, just play the game a little bit with, Alfred being dead in the main continuity of books. Wouldn't it be awesome to own Alfred's diary? And so I think, this annual would sell a lot because of that. And it's okay if they did, I personally would have liked it, though, if it was Batman's journal saying it in his own perspective, telling these stories. Just because for me, when I learn after the fact, oh, we played the game so that way we can get more sales, I'm like, you probably could have gotten even more sales if you, stood, your ground with 1 or 2 stories in one book, So,
Yeah.
I don't know. There was, the we talked about this before, the I'm Batman line that's in this book. It's a thing that happens a lot that, either sounds really badass or is just really, really cheesy. This one felt a little cheesy, but like you said at work the other day, it's more of like how the Doctor in Doctor Who claims it.
Yeah.
And, whenever people hear that, people get feared or entities are scared and things like that. So I can understand that mentality of it. But overall, I really did enjoy it. I thought it was a fun read. The art was okay. I think it could have been a little bit better in some places. But, it was a good read, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so I actually enjoyed this book at first, and I will say at the start of this, I was like, oh, this might just be kind of an okay story when I was reading it. But I was actually opposite of Clay, where I actually liked the one-panel stories because they just go and they're like Monday, April 12th, Tuesday, April 13th. And it just keeps going down the line, and it's a different Batman story. And the reason why I fell in love with the story at the end of it was, one, being a big Batman fan, I understood a lot of the references at the end. Not everything is a Batman story. It could be. I guarantee that Tom King has read way more Batman than I have. But I do understand that a lot of these stories are very classic stories from the Golden Age, from the Silver Age, even from the Batman animated series. I don't know if you saw the last panel, Clay, but that last Friday, April 23rd panel is actually from the, if I'm not mistaken, it is the, oh man, what is the name of that title? The freaking one with Harley and Joker in it, where she actually uses Joker's plan and it does it better than him, and he gets pissed and he knocks her out of a window. Like,
oh, yeah.
That's where that is from.
Nice.
And so, and I don't know if the very last panel that says Saturday, April 24th is continuing that, which I don't think it is because they're separate days. But I think that's just a very Batman 66 panel, which is going on there. But yeah, so I absolutely love this because me and Clay have been talking about it. We've even talked about it on this podcast, that DC is currently trying to go with this whole 5G thing, and they're trying to cram 80 years of content in like 60 years, and they're trying to make this crazy timeline. And I've always been under the idea that, one, you can't do that in a realistic way when it comes to comics, because comics are always written in the modern time, unless you are writing a period piece or something like that. And I've always said that you have to think about it in a very Doctor Who type of way, where time is constantly in flux, and things can, there are like hardcore points in time that you can't change. You can't change Wonder Woman leaving Themyscira. You can't change Superman falling from the sky. You can't change Bruce Wayne's parents getting murdered. Like, those are fixed points in time. They will always happen. But everything else can change. And the timing of things change. And the cool thing about this was it felt like Tom King took 80 years of Batman and made it happen in days and months. And so some of those stories that people loved back in the day, you can say, oh yeah, that actually happened in one day. Like, you can read it and think about it that way. And I thought that was really awesome, and it was a more clever way to try to add a lot of these old Batman stories into continuity without actually trying to make a physical timeline that people will be able to go to read, and will 100% be dissected by hardcore fans that are like, there's no way this could happen because in this time, Tom King just does it in a more like loose leaf way, which I think is kind of cool. And granted, some people would read those stories that actually happened in this, and they will say that, like, that's not impossible because that freaking story actually took 3 months in that arc or whatever, when, that's the kind of stuff that you have to let go of and say that it just changed over time. So, I don't know. I really enjoyed this, and, Tom King had that one thing with the story that Clay was talking about where he says, I'm Batman, when that's like in another dimension or something like that. Batman comes back to Earth. Alfred's actually there waiting for him, like with T, and Batman just asks, like, what's next? Like, he's always ready to go. Batman is that one person that gets like 2 hours of sleep, if even that, a night or whatever. Like, there's been stories of like, oh, he micro sleeps and this and that, blah blah blah. And it's just always interesting to see how determined he is. And I think that's what I've always loved about this character. So I really enjoyed the annual. I do kind of agree with your idea that, yeah, it could have been Bruce's diaries easily just because, you know, he does this already. Like, we know he writes this. Batwoman is literally taking that idea from Batman and putting it in the show. So, yeah, that would have been cool, too. But I really don't have an issue with it being Alfred's diaries just because I figure Alfred would do something like that anyway. He's always around. But, yeah, other than that, I thought it was pretty solid.
Yeah, you know, reading it more and more, because I did go back to it and read it, for me, I think one of the major things with the one-panel things, like I said, was more of the show don't tell, because there was this one panel that I actually talked to you about was the whole thing where Alfred was saying GCPD was attempting to get this man to talk. They called Batman. And then it moved to the very next one. I was like, well, what's after that? Like, okay, they called Batman, but did you get the guy? Did he not crack? You know, was that a story where Batman didn't get to save anybody? Like, yeah. It draws a lot of questions. And, you know, I guess that's good for Tom King because, you know, more people will talk about this book. But I feel like some of those panels can really fall flat when you leave it open-ended like that. So, you know, it's really 50-50 on me, to be completely honest. But I do like the longer stories. I do like that the one with the I forgot what gang he was talking about, but he has the watchdog. Is it watchdog? I can't remember. Or who's the character in freaking Arrow that has
yeah. I know who you're talking about. I don't know his name, but it's something dog. Wild Dog.
Wild Dog, yeah. They actually made that into a gang. I don't know when they did it, but that gang actually made an appearance in Green Arrow, like in like I want to say the early 20s issues of Rebirth. They made an appearance, so I knew immediately when I saw them in Batman. I was like, oh, that's that gang. That's pretty cool. So nice. I like how he is pulling a little bit of continuity from other places. And, you know, I would have wanted to learn a little bit more about the investigations of that charity fight, you know? Was it Batman who found out that he beat his wife? Or was it just something that came out and Batman found out, you know? So, but yeah, like I said, just overall good story. I hope that we get more Batman stories from Tom King, to be honest, you know. With 5G, I don't know how DC, if they are confident in just sticking with their continuity stuff or sprinkling in more non-continuity stuff, like these annuals and like Tom King's Batcat, you know, 12-issue maxi series. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty interesting to see where the Batman. This podcast is gonna be hella interesting when 5G hits, like, because I really hope it doesn't become the way you hate freaking Bendis, because that would be a really depressing podcast. But hopefully we'll have. Well, actually, when 5G comes out, we should be getting a lot of Batman news at that point, like movie wise, and the game will probably be out. So we'll probably have a lot of other stuff to talk about, but. Yeah, that's going to be it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. Episode 12 in the books. So, yeah, this was a very comic-heavy week, and I think next week we're getting, actually, Batman 82 this time, because the annual took the place of it this week. So we'll be talking about the showdown between Batman and Bane finally going to happen in Batman 82. I'm sure we'll be getting some other Batman stuff, detective and stuff like that, maybe. I don't know. We'll find out, because things change a lot when these annual weeks come out. And some things get pushed back. The holidays are coming up, so that's going to throw off the schedule a little weird too. But yeah, it should be really interesting. And I think that's it. I think that's all we got for this podcast. So if you got to find Clay anywhere, of course, all his stuff is going to be in the description of this video. Or, well, that is for the YouTube audience, but it'll be in the description of this podcast as well if you want to go, follow his Instagrams or his Twitters or anything like that. You can always listen to him on the Comic Book Legion podcast, what are y'all talking about this week?
This week will basically be the same stuff that we are talking about here, but we're also going to be talking about Basket Full of Heads, which is the Hill House Comics issue number 1 of Basket Full of Heads. Joe Hill, Stephen King's son, is basically the showrunner of the Hill House Comics at DC.
Nice.
So he's had a really good run with indie comics, horror comics. So I am interested to see what comes out after this Basket Full of Heads, because the Basket Full of Heads issue number 1 was actually pretty good. I really enjoyed it.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't got to read that yet. So if you guys want to hear them talk about other stuff like that, definitely go check out the Comic Book Legion podcast, which should be out when this drops, I would assume, around the same time. So go check that out. Of course, you can always follow me on all of my Instagram stuff. That stuff will be in the link in the description as well. Go check out the Juice Reacts channel, uploading videos every single day. Go check that out. But yeah, as always, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for us. As always, he is Fanboy Clay. I am Juice Wayne. Remember, when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself something about my daily dose of juice. See you guys next time.
I think the girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. I think the girls with their nails done.